internet friends, welcome back to, I guess, my new-ish series where I go into retail stores and take a look at the clothing available and see if it holds up to my quality standard. Today we are focusing on Old Navy. Let me just tell you, we are in for a wild ride. This was very interesting and very eye-opening. When I think of Old Navy, I think of all of the celebrity endorsements that they have. I just came off of reviewing Target and Walmart. As far as price comparison goes, Old Navy is on the higher end of that list. They're expensive. However, I know they are built on the psychology of looking at the price point and looking up and seeing that it's on sale. So as far as standard goes, I am definitely weighing those things very heavily against them. All of these things are my opinion. I do realize some of these items might have already been purchased by you. Please don't take any offense to it. Style is very much an individualized experience. In no way am I trying to shame you out of making purchases. I am just trying to look at this through a very constructive lens. Let's not continue to get ripped off by these companies. I'm a thrifter. I've been selling vintage for over a decade now, and I've seen it all. Literally every fabric type, every style of garment out there on the market. I have probably touched it at one point in time at the thrift store. I just am very used to looking at garments through such a critical lens. And I think it's high time we start talking about these companies that are massive producing these garments, really start holding them accountable for some of the literal junk that they're producing. So with that being said, let's dive into this video and head out to Old Navy. Now we are in the thick of sweater weather, and most of the items at the store are going to be knitwear and heavy coats, which I'm very excited about because that is normally where some of the best quality items can be found. Knitwear, I think of cotton, I think of wool, I think of really sturdy, put together fibers. I was so disappointed in their sweater collection. It was a very heavy combination of polyester cotton, but not in the good sense. This was a very cheaply woven knit. If I had to guess just based on the initial touch and feel of this garment, I would have said all of these sweaters were 100% polyester. The touch of the fabric itself was just so uncomfortable to me. I am not someone who absolutely hates polyester. I actually don't mind polyester if it's done the right way. And none of these knits seem to be that quality style polyester that I am looking for. They're obviously trying to mimic the Fair Isle knits, but when I think of Fair Isle, I think of quality. I think of 100% wool, 100% cotton. Those are sturdy garments that oftentimes were handmade and they were built to stand the test of time. This is literal garbage, but I was determined to find something quality-wise as far as sweaters go. I diligently checked every single piece of knitwear in this store. Pretty much everything that I touched was a very large combination of polyester, cotton, spandex, elastane, you name it. So in this video, I decided to do something a little different. I don't normally go over to the menswear section. I had been itching to do this in the Walmart video, but I decided against it. But this video, I thought it was very important to go over to the menswear section and see what some of the options were. Literally so pissed at this entire situation. The moment I walked over to the menswear section, 100% cotton, sweaters, and cardigans readily available. The knitwear selection over there was what I would be willing to pay that price point for. Don't even get me on my soapbox about men's quality clothing versus women's quality clothing. They skimp on everything in the women's section and it pisses me off to no end. But to make matters even worse, as I was filtering through these sweaters, Gwen Stefani's I'm Just a Girl just so happened to come on. And oh my gosh, the irony in all of it as I'm like trying to grapple with the fact that the men's section is 10 times better than the women's section. Don't get me wrong, they did have some sweaters over there that were still pretty poorly made, 100% polyester or polyester nylon cotton blend. Let's move on to dresses. I really don't think this is a good idea, but we're just gonna keep this train moving. This sequin dress, I actually saw beforehand. I watched a couple of videos of reviews of like current Old Navy product, and this was a very highly talked about dress. So I was kind of low-key excited to see it in person. This is literal highway robbery. The fabric itself for this is literally like bottom of the barrel Joann's fabric. This is machine-made fabric that you can tell was just at a rapid pace going through a machine and being cut off, and like that's it, get them in, get them out kind of thing. $55 for a dress like this, I cannot wrap my head around. I have many hot takes on sequins. As a vintage seller, I stay away from pretty much anything that is sequin because it's just hard to maintain. And there was so much beautiful sequin pieces from the 80s and 90s. Actually, just after I was done filming this video, I hopped into a Goodwill and I found the sequin top. This wasn't even from a high-end designer brand. Like when I think of nice sequin garments, I think of like Stenay. If you look at the construction of these garments, they are normally silk or rayon. The sequins are oftentimes like hand stitched into place. These products were literally a work of art built with intention. I get it. Sometimes you just want a beautiful piece of clothing, and I know the holiday season makes you want to shimmer and shine, and to each their own if they decide to invest in a piece like this. But for $55, the slip was so sheer, but also just the fabric itself was so poorly made. If you absolutely want a sequin piece in your wardrobe, please don't think about it in a sense of like once a year you should buy sequins. Think about it as something that you'll have every single season. Something like this, because of the poor construction and quality, it literally is the definition of fast fashion. Next, let's get into tops and blouses. This was very much a strong mixture of products that I was like kind of okay with, and then some of the pieces I was on the fence with. A lot of it's polyester, like this blouse in particular. As with both Walmart and Target, a lot of times you find a strong mixture of pieces that have major fabric flaws. A few of the pieces that I did like, any of the cotton button downs. The way that I try and look at stores like this is they are good basic pieces. I'm a strong believer of like a high-low closet. I personally have found designer button downs that I've washed and worn, and they did not wear nearly as well as some of the fast fashion pieces. So it's all across the board. It's sometimes when you get into the nuances of pieces like this, you can almost have like analysis paralysis where you look too much at the construction of the garment, when in reality, it's honestly kind of a crapshoot. I was really interested to see a pretty solid mixture of rayon as well. I don't think I saw that very often at Walmart and Target. Rayon is, again, a very personal preference. I mean, hands down between rayon and polyester, I think rayon breathes a lot better. I have a tendency to lean more towards rayon garments than I do silk because I think they're easier to maintain. But again, I think that's very much a personal preference. This blouse in particular is a really good example of rayon draping really well. I actually found a similar top to this at Target that was 100% polyester that was very stiff, and you could tell it just wasn't going to wash very well. Whereas this, if you hand wash it, delicate cycle, this is a blouse that will stand the test of time. Next up, let's talk about t-shirts. T-shirts was the one area that I was pretty impressed with. Everything for the most part was 100% cotton. I think a lot of times t-shirts fall into preference. I will say, as far as thickness and durability goes, it was only the graphic t-shirts that I was really truly impressed with. I personally prefer a thicker t-shirt. That's why I'm a huge fan of Uniqlo t-shirts. I think the thickness on them is just like spot on, and the price point super affordable. One thing that I was very interested in though was they had a Luxe series that I had never seen before, and it turned out this was also made of rayon. Rayon does a really good job of mimicking silk. They try and do the same thing with polyester, but I think rayon is the clear winner when it comes to mimicking silk. Next, let's move on to outerwear. This is another area that, like, yet again, I feel like there are very little positives in this video. I think the longer I do this and the more stores that I go to, the more I can start comparing to other companies. And hands down, all of these jackets for the price point. I mean, we're talking the $70 to $80 price point. Walmart outshines all of them by far. Lining, coat itself, 100% polyester. These are pieces that look great from far away, but the moment you get up close to them, you realize the quality is just not there. These jackets are just very cheaply made, and I think for the price point, you can get a lot better coat that is built for warmth, built for durability, has all of the factors in that price point that are necessary for a coat like this. And that was pretty much the same across the board for all the jackets in the store, including the men's section. I did pop back over there to see if I could find anything. I was not very impressed. I did find these fleece jackets, which is another thing that I've noticed is going viral. Now, fleece is a tricky one. You can very easily argue that fleece is necessary, especially from like an outdoor activewear standpoint. There are people who are obsessed with fleece and like really get into the nuances of how fleece works. I mean, when you want to talk about like wearing wool out and about, biking, durability, it's just not possible. It gets wet, it gets soggy, and it's very uncomfortable. Polyester fleece comes into play in a situation like this and can be very, it actually works. I'm not a huge fan of polyester, but I know and understand there are moments in fashion where polyester works. I will say though, the fleece on this just like gives me nightmares. I'm not gonna lie, I have a bit of a theory when it comes to the fashion industry and fleece, because I don't remember fleece being this matted. But every single fleece piece that I come in contact with now, since like probably 5+ years ago, it always has this layer of matting to it. I find fleece really interesting from that standpoint. And if you look at the history of Patagonia, who's like, you know, the king of fleece, it started because they were looking for wool replacements because wool is soggy and wet. So one day back in the 70s, they saw a toilet seat cover that was like that like pile fleece, and they decided to make that into a sweater. And there you go, the birth of like fleece garments in that sense. But they washed that cover once, it's 100% polyester, and they realized it matted super quick. So that just tells you these things were not meant to be forever pieces. I think out of all of the outerwear that I see the most of at the thrift store, it's always Sherpa fleece sweaters and jackets. If you want to talk about a fleece Sherpa jacket that I did like though, this one in particular, I actually was kind of curious about. I think the durability factor on something like this, because again, it has that like boucle, that nubby knit texture. The fibers, the yarn loops all the way through. The chances of this matting the same way that you saw on the jacket from the men's section probably isn't gonna happen to the same capacity. I can't speak to it 100%, obviously, unless I purchased it and like washed it a handful of times. If you own this jacket and you've washed it a handful of times, please let me know down below your thoughts. I would love to hear your hot take on this, because I do think that like boucle nubby knit Sherpa or the high pile fleece is worthwhile. I think anything though that is just like a matted fleece like that, it just blows my mind. As I was winding down this little adventure and I was trying to find some pieces to try on that I gave my stamp of approval, I actually just so happened to find 2 cotton sweaters tucked away. How this happened, I do not know, but I literally felt like they appeared out of nowhere because I had gone through these sweaters a handful of times. These were tucked underneath the shelf, so I have no idea what the story was, but yeah, 100% cotton. Now, last but not least, let's cover denim. Denim, I was kind of torn across the board. There were some pieces that were a very high percentage of cotton and spandex, and there were quite a few pieces that were either 100% cotton or a very small percentage of spandex and cotton blend, which you guys know, I always try and look for 100% cotton or like the 1 to 5% spandex mark. Anything over that, and I consider it jeggings. Again, that's very much a personal preference. I would say as far as comparing these to the Walmart and Target brand, I did think the selection was very similar and comparable. However, I do think as far as durability and thickness of the cotton on the denim, if you get into that higher range of cotton, you're actually getting a lot thicker denim in my opinion, and that is a huge factor in the type of denim that I like to purchase. So I actually give Old Navy a stamp of approval as far as denim goes. So far it's the denim and the t-shirts. Let's try on a couple pieces, because yes, even though I was a negative Nancy throughout the vast majority of this video, I did actually find some pieces that I thoroughly enjoyed. Starting out with this red dress, this is 96% cotton and 4% spandex elastane. I was very impressed with this piece. I really had no notes. I think the spandex adds a good amount of stretch and integrity to it. It's a good classic basic, and that's really what I'm looking for when it comes to Old Navy or like any of these stores really. You're really looking for pieces that can fill the gaps in your wardrobe. Next up was the 100% cotton knitwear that I found. This was a really good piece. I wish they had way more pieces that were similar to this, but unfortunately I can't say that they did. I thought the quality on it was good, the price point was fair, it was a good, sturdy cotton piece. I also really liked this kind of boyfriend style white button down. I liked the ribbing on the front. It was just a really classic piece that had a good amount of character to it. And that, yet again, is another thing that I really enjoy looking for when it comes to filling gaps in my wardrobe. Something that's like a staple or a basic, but has a little bit of flair to it. That's something that I always end up falling in love with. And then also the denim. This was hands down one of the best pairs of denim that I've found in a really long time. This was 99% cotton, 1% spandex. I just really liked the shape on this. Pockets on it, it just was a really unique piece. I definitely fell in love with these jeans. They are like a slim, straight fit. So, you know, they're that answer to like, if you like skinny jeans and you don't want to commit to those like wide leg barrel style jeans, I feel like something like this is such a good wardrobe addition. Next up is this Western pearl snap. If you notice, it's really just cotton and denim. Those are the two things that I'm focusing the most on when it comes to quality pieces. And I feel like an outfit like this gives you a very polished look. You're still falling into the well put together, like almost Dakota Johnson territory of like just effortlessly cool, but you also have the quality pieces. I feel like from far away, you would never know, like, where was this piece from? Are those Veronica Beard jeans or are they Old Navy jeans? I do not know. Some final notes on Old Navy and some lessons that I learned. One, don't be afraid to shop the men's section, which like that's the lesson that I learned a long time ago. If you want 100% cotton, head over to the men's section. You're probably gonna find it, which, you know, really pisses me off, but that's a story for another day, I guess. Price points are so all over the place, but just remember, because they price something at the $60 price point, but they're lowering it to 40% off, does not mean that you shouldn't get a quality piece that costs $60, because the amount that they're paying for those pieces are next to nothing. I think there are definitely hidden gems to be found at Old Navy. I will say though, as far as quality goes, I was very disappointed in this search. I really left very lackluster, and I think having come off just going to Walmart and Target so recently and being able to compare those brands and those price points, it was quite a bit of a letdown to see the quality that Old Navy was offering, and especially the price points considered. I really enjoy looking at my wardrobe as a fill in the gaps kind of wardrobe. Like, I'm not trying to buy my entire wardrobe from Old Navy or Walmart or Target or any of those places. You know, it's good to have like a fun, healthy, high-low mixture. I think that's what style is all about. I think across the board though, we still very much deserve quality. I think this is a really eye-opening look at just how bad the quality truly is. I think for a lot of us, we're losing that ability to think critically because we're shopping chronically online. There really is a level of importance in going into the stores and feeling the garments and actually looking over the pieces as a whole. I think the further we remove that practice from our purchase decisions, the more power these companies have to just keep producing literal garbage. Anyways, I'm done rambling. Thanks so much for joining me. I'm sorry this video was so negative. I really don't want to turn into that negative person on the internet, but I think that's quickly happening. This is why I enjoy Disney so much, is because like I need an escape. Like my brain just, you know, at all times of the day, I'm just thinking like literal garbage is being produced all the time, and Disney does it too. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.